Pilot demands black CEO move seats. She stuns everyone when she orders a flight audit. Hello everyone, before we begin today's video, I need your help. We've noticed that the channel is losing traction and subscribing is one of the best ways you can help us. It's quick, free, and allows us to continue bringing you great content. Your support means everything. Let's keep this channel growing collectively. Where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. Thank you very much. Now let's get back to the story. You're in the wrong seat, ma'am. The words landed like a slap in the quiet of first class. Every conversation froze, every glass of champagne stopped midair. The pilot himself stood there, silver hair, Navy uniform authority stitched into every seam. He wasn't smiling. His finger hovered just inches from her boarding pass. Amara Johnson didn't move. She just looked up from her tablet, calm poised, dressed in a cobalt blue suit that caught the cabin light like silk armor. Row 2A window seat, paid in full. Still, the pilot's voice didn't waver. Security will need to verify your ticket. Please relocate to economy until we confirm. A woman across the aisle whispered, "Oh my God." Another man muttered, "Guess she sneaked in." The flight attendant beside them, young, nervous, bright lipstick trying to hide her fear, stood frozen. Amara blinked once, slow, deliberate. "You're the captain," she said quietly. He nodded, almost proud. "Then you already know every name in first class," she added, eyes unwavering. He hesitated. Just enough for the silence to sting. The cabin wasn't breathing anymore. From row 3, someone lifted a phone halfway, pretending to check messages but clearly recording. The hum of the engines became a low growl under the tension. Amara's gaze never left the pilot. "Are you asking?" she said softly, "or ordering?" He straightened his shoulders. "I'm giving an instruction." The word instruction carried weight like she was cargo to be moved, and yet her face didn't crack. She slid her tablet shut with the same grace as someone closing a $1 million deal. One heartbeat passed, then another. Passengers stared, some with pity, others with that familiar curiosity that blooms when people expect a scene. But there was no scene, only composure sharp enough to cut. In the front row, the co-pilot peeked out, confused. The young flight attendant shifted, whispering under her breath. Sir, her boarding pass scanned green. The captain shot her a glare. "Stay out of this." Amara leaned back, slightly, eyes flicking toward the cabin window where clouds rolled by, calm and endless. "Noted," she said. "Proceed as you think is best. No raised voice, no panic. Just an elegance that made everyone else look small. Before we continue, where are you watching from? Drop your city or country in the comments below. And if you believe in dignity and justice, hit like and subscribe. These stories spark change, and we're glad you're here. Now back to Amara. The captain didn't move, neither did Amara. For a heartbeat, they simply stared at each other, authority versus quiet defiance. Then he sighed through his nose, turned slightly toward the senior flight attendant, and said, "Ma'am, please relocate this passenger until we verify her credentials." The word passenger hung heavy in the air. Not guest, not customer, just cargo with a pulse. The attendant hesitated. She was mid-30s, sharp-bun, perfect smile, but her eyes flickered. "Captain, her ticket already scanned." He cut her off. "System errors happen. Do your job." Amara's voice came soft but precise. "And what exactly is your job right now, safety or assumption?" The cabin rustled. Someone coughed. Someone else murmured, "She's got a point." But the captain's pride had already taken flight. "Protocol doesn't care about opinions." Amara smiled faintly. "Neither does truth." That small line drew the kind of silence you could slice with a boarding pass. From row 3C, a woman in pearls whispered, "She's being difficult." Her husband nodded. Typical entitlement. The words hit like static. They weren't loud, but they were heard. The young trainee flight attendant, Lena, stood near the galley door, tall, nervous hands gripping her tablet. Her eyes darted between Amara and the captain as if watching a storm she'd seen before but couldn't stop. When Amara turned her gaze toward Lena, the girl froze. But Amara's expression wasn't angry, it was understanding. That quiet mother lion calm that said, "I know what you're thinking and it's okay to speak." Lena's lips parted, barely a whisper. "Captain, her name's Johnson, right? It's marked in gold on the manifest." He snapped. "Lena, that's enough." The sharpness made her flinch. The rest of the cabin looked away, pretending they weren't witnessing a crack in the chain of command. Amara didn't react. She simply adjusted her cufflinks movements, deliberate, slow, regal. Her suit gleamed under the cabin lights, a blue so vivid it looked like control itself. Behind her, a man in business casual muttered, "She's probably an upgrade scammer." "Happens all the time." Another voice joined. Yeah, she should be grateful they're even letting her talk back. Those murmurs, the chorus of quiet prejudice, filled the space like recycled air. The captain took one step closer, invading that fragile line of personal space. Last chance, ma'am. Move or we'll have you escorted off. Amara blinked once, her tone steady. By all means, Captain. Just make sure you log the reason clearly. His jaw tightened. Excuse me. She tilted her head slightly. Because if you're wrong, this flight won't take off. Not today. The co-pilot, watching from the doorway, whispered something into his radio. The cabin's calm veneer cracked a little more. A baby whimpered in row 5. A mother shushed him gently, eyes wide. Even innocence could sense the air turning heavy. Amara leaned back in her seat again, crossing one leg over the other. Every move she made felt intentional, as if she was orchestrating the silence itself. The young attendant, Lena, swallowed hard. Her voice trembled. Captain, maybe we should double-check the log before. Enough, he barked. The command boomed down the aisle. A few passengers jumped. One man muttered, "He's overreacting." Another whispered, "She's testing him." Amara's eyes shifted toward the window again. The clouds outside drifted like ghosts, calm, indifferent. Interesting, she murmured almost to herself. How quickly control becomes chaos when truth walks in wearing blue. The captain frowned. What's that supposed to mean? Amara met his gaze. You'll understand soon enough. He turned away sharply, signaling the senior attendant. Get her ID. Now. The woman stepped forward, hesitant but compliant, hand outstretched toward Amara. For a split second, Amara's eyes flicked to the name tag pinned on her chest, Rebecca Hayes. Calmly, she asked, Rebecca, before you reach for me, ask yourself who really gave that order, your captain or your bias? Rebecca froze mid-gesture. The cabin exhaled as one. Lena's tablet pinged with a notification. She glanced down and went pale. The system displayed VIP, priority clearance, executive level. Her eyes shot up wide, terrified. She didn't dare speak. Amara saw the reaction, knew the truth had surfaced, and still said nothing. She simply folded her hands over her lap, composure, unbroken gaze fixed forward as the tension thickened like fog before a storm. In that stillness, something shifted, not yet visible but inevitable. The captain's straightened voice louder now, a man trying to reclaim a room that no longer belonged to him. Fine, he said. You want verification, you'll get it. He turned on his heel and disappeared toward the cockpit. And for the first time since boarding, the passengers looked at Amara, not with suspicion but with curiosity. Who was this woman who didn't flinch under command? She didn't answer. She didn't need to. Because the truth was already boarding. When the captain returned, his face had changed. No more uncertainty, just offense wrapped in authority. 2 security officers followed him down the aisle. One male, one female, both in dark uniforms that made the aisle shrink smaller with every step. The passengers whispered. Phones tilted. The show was beginning and no one dared blink. Amara remained seated. Ma'am, the captain said, voice clipped. Stand up and come with us. Her hands stayed folded. Is there a reason? Verification, he snapped. You've delayed departure long enough. The female officer moved first. Ma'am, please comply. That word again, comply. Amara looked up, her expression unreadable. And if I don't? The officer hesitated. The captain didn't. Then we'll escort you off. Something about the way he said escort made the entire cabin flinch. Not because of the word, but the tone, the assumption. Amara exhaled slowly. Proceed, she said. The officer reached for her wrist. That was the moment the world tilted. Not literally, the plane hadn't moved an inch, but the air changed temperature, density, gravity itself. Every sound, every shuffle, every breath folded into one quiet gasp. She remembered another wrist once caught by another uniform. 22 years old. Charlotte. Summer heat trapped in the narrow jet bridge. She'd just landed her first consulting job wearing a navy skirt suit her mother had sewn by hand. The agent at the gate had said her boarding pass looked tampered. They'd pulled her aside. People stared. She'd tried to explain. They'd called her aggressive. She'd cried quietly into the sleeve of her own suit. The memory flashed and faded in a heartbeat, but its echo stayed. The officer's fingers brushed her sleeve. Amara's voice came low, calm, and razor-sharp. Touch me again and you'll regret it, not because I'll scream, but because you won't understand what kind of mistake you've made. The captain scoffed. Are you threatening me? Amara's eyes met his. No, Captain. I'm predicting outcomes. The passengers shifted uncomfortably. A man in row 5 whispered, This feels wrong. The woman beside him nodded, eyes glued to her phone. I'm filming. People need to see this. The younger attendant, Lena, stood frozen by the galley, trembling. Her tablet still displayed the VIP clearance. She whispered to herself, "Oh my God, it's real." The captain noticed her bark, put that away. But it was too late. His shout broke the last illusion of control. Amara rose slowly, deliberately, every movement precise, rehearsed by a lifetime of endurance. Her height matched his now. The aisle became a stage. "Captain," she said softly, "you've made 3 mistakes today." Her tone was so steady it felt rehearsed. 1, you assumed appearance equals authority. 2, you used security as armor for arrogance. And 3, she paused long enough for the entire cabin to hold its breath. You forgot that accountability boards faster than any passenger. The officer glanced at each other, uncertain now. The captain tried to reclaim the floor. "Enough riddles. You're disrupting an active flight." Amara's lips curved faintly. "No, Captain, you are." She reached for her phone. The cabin lights dimmed briefly as the crew switched systems for departure, unaware that a different system, hers, was already in motion. Lena took a trembling step forward. "Sir, please stop. Her name's Amara Johnson." "She's no," the captain shouted. "Quiet," Amara spoke over him, calm but commanding. "No need to announce it, dear. They'll know soon enough." The older flight attendant, Rebecca, stepped closer, voice uncertain. "Ma'am, please, let's de-escalate." Amara met her eyes. "I am de-escalating. You'll see." And then she said 6 words that didn't sound loud but thundered through every ear in the cabin. "Rachel, initiate Flight Audit Protocol Alpha." The phone at her ear lit up instantly. A woman's voice came crisp and professional, confirmed. "Audit in progress. Cockpit communications are now monitored." The captain blinked. "What did you just—" Amara looked straight at him. "You wanted verification. Let's begin." From somewhere above, the PA system crackled, distorted for a second. Then a calm male voice echoed. "Attention crew, internal compliance has been activated. Continue to stand by." Gasps rippled through the cabin. The captain's face drained of color. He turned toward the cockpit, barking orders that no one followed. Amara simply sat back down, eyes steady, voice level. "I told you," she said quietly. "If you're wrong, this flight won't take off." And for the first time since the confrontation began, no one, not the captain, not the crew, not a single passenger, doubted her. The jet was still, but power had already changed hands. The cabin was a cathedral of silence. Every passenger sat frozen in that unreal hush that comes when something bigger than fear walks into the room. The captain's voice broke, first strained, disbelieving. "This is ridiculous. Who authorized that system?" From her seat, Amara didn't move. "You did," she said calmly, "when you chose protocol over respect." He blinked the words, "not computing." "You what?" Amara turned her phone toward him. On the screen glowed a sleek blue interface marked Astra Airlines, Executive Compliance Dashboard. At the top, user ID 0001, Johnson Amara L. The male officer beside him swallowed hard. "Sir, that's an internal network." "I know what it is," the captain snapped, but his voice faltered halfway through the sentence. A soft chime rang through the speakers. "Captain Reynolds," a neutral female voice announced, "your access credentials have been temporarily suspended pending audit. Please remain seated." He froze. The words weren't loud, yet they landed like gavel strikes. Gasps rippled down the aisle. A woman in pearls whispered, "She wasn't bluffing." Her husband whispered back, "She owns the airline." Lena, the young attendant, finally found her voice. "She's the CEO," she said, almost in tears. "Amara Johnson, founder of Astra Air." Phones lifted again, this time not to mock, but to witness. Amara rose slowly, every movement deliberate. The sunlight from the window haloed her cobalt suit like stage lighting. She looked around the cabin, the same passengers who had whispered and doubted now sitting upright, stunned. "Let me make this simple," she began, voice calm enough to steady turbulence. "I built this airline 10 years ago to give people a place where professionalism meant more than perception, where uniforms didn't decide worth." She turned her gaze to the captain. "And yet here we are, same sky, same arrogance, new day." The co-pilot stepped out of the cockpit, head bowed. "Madam, we didn't know." "I'm aware," Amara replied. "That's the problem." Rebecca, the senior attendant, finally found courage. "Miss Johnson?" "Aye." Amara lifted a hand gently. "You have 2 choices, Rebecca. Stand for the values you signed in your contract, or stand behind someone who just violated every one of them." Rebecca's lips trembled. Then she nodded, stepping aside from the captain. Lena followed, shoulders squaring for the first time all flight. A collective murmur spread relief, shock admiration, blending into one human sound. Amara took one slow step toward the cockpit. "Captain Reynolds," she said softly, "you ordered me to move seats." He couldn't meet her eyes. "You questioned my right to be here." He swallowed. "Misread the situation." "No," she said. "You read it perfectly. You just didn't like what the truth looked like." Her words hung in the air like lightning suspended mid-strike. Then, through her phone, Rachel's voice returned crisp professional, "Audit complete. Captain Reynolds found in breach of conduct sections 3B and 7A. Immediate suspension recommended. Would you like to confirm?" Every passenger heard it. Amara's gaze softened, almost merciful yet unyielding. "Confirm," she said. The captain's ID badge flashed red, then went dark. Rebecca gasped. Lena covered her mouth. The entire cabin exhaled the same wordless awe. Amara turned back to the passengers, her tone still even. "For the record, this flight will continue once a replacement captain is assigned. Your safety remains my priority." A beat of silence, then applause. Not polite, fierce. It began with one pair of hands, then another, then the entire cabin, erupting into claps and cheers that filled the fuselage. Amara didn't smile wide, just that quiet, satisfied curve of the lips that said justice didn't need volume, it just needed proof. She sank back into her seat, fastened the belt, and whispered, "Not for the cameras, but for herself. I didn't raise my voice. I raised the standard." Outside, the clouds drifted past unaware they'd just witnessed history. The clapping faded, but the echo of it lingered like thunder rolling after the strike. For a moment, no one knew what to do. The captain stood near the cockpit door, badge dimmed to red uniform, suddenly too heavy for his frame. Power had left the room, but dignity had stayed. Amara sat still, hands folded once more, gaze fixed on the horizon beyond the cabin window. Rachel's voice came again through her phone, low but clear. "Replacement pilot boarding in 10 minutes, ma'am. Compliance team en route." "Thank you, Rachel," she said. "Notify HR to begin formal review. Keep the footage secure." The two security officers who had once shadowed the captain now stood quietly by the galley, eyes lowered. The male officer whispered, "Ma'am, for what it's worth, I'm sorry." Amara turned slightly, not unkind. "Then learn from it. Apologies don't matter if the system stays blind." Lena, the young attendant, stepped closer. Her hands shook, but her voice was steady. "Miss Johnson, when I joined Astra Air, they told us you built it to change how people are treated." Amara nodded softly. "That was the goal." Lena swallowed hard. "Then I want to help fix this." Amara's smile, small, proud like a mentor seeing a spark reignite, was all the approval the girl needed. Across the aisle, the woman in pearls who'd whispered earlier, "She's being difficult," now looked away ashamed. Her husband cleared his throat, mumbling something about misunderstanding. Amara didn't glance at them. The lesson wasn't for their comfort, it was for their conscience. The intercom chimed again. "Ladies and gentlemen, this flight is temporarily delayed pending reassignment of command. We appreciate your patience." A pause. Then the voice added, "And your respect." Passengers exchanged. Looks, some smiling faintly, others wiping tears they didn't expect. Rebecca, the senior attendant, approached Amara hesitantly. "Ma'am, I owe you an apology. I should have spoken up sooner." Amara's tone was calm, steady. "Courage is a muscle, Rebecca. It grows when used. I trust you'll train it daily." Rebecca nodded, eyes glistening. Through the window, the tarmac glowed in late afternoon light. Ground crew moved methodically. Life outside went on, but inside something fundamental had shifted. The co-pilot, now sitting in the jump seat, turned his headset off. "Ma'am, if I may, I've flown with him for years. Never thought he'd cross that line." Amara looked toward him, not accusatory, just firm. That's how the line disappears, people thinking it's never close enough to matter. Silence settled again, heavier but cleaner this time, like air after rain. Then slowly passengers began to approach her one by one. A man from row 5 who'd been filming since the beginning said quietly, "I've got the full video. If you need it for your report." Amara shook her head. "Keep it. Share it if you wish. Let people see what accountability looks like in real time." A teenage girl with headphones whispered, "You didn't yell once. You just fixed it." Amara smiled. Justice doesn't always roar. Sometimes it just stands up. Lena leaned closer. "They're saying online this clip already hit 100,000 views." Amara chuckled softly. "Let them watch. Maybe next time someone speaks up before it has to go viral." The new pilot entered, young, composed, aware of the gravity he was stepping into. He saluted lightly. "Captain Miller, ma'am." I'll take it from here, Amara nodded. Good. Let's get these people home. He gave the order to prepare for departure. Engines hummed back to life, gentle but sure. As the plane began to taxi, Amara glanced around the cabin one last time. The fear, the whispers, the tension, they were gone. In their place sat quiet admiration, respect. The woman in blue looked every bit the leader she'd always been, not because of her title, but because of how she carried it silently, steadfastly, without permission. She closed her eyes, letting the rumble of the runway fill the pause between heartbeats. Then she whispered barely, audible but heavy with meaning, "Every sky is the same. It's the people who change the weather." The engines roared, the plane lifted, and for the first time that day the air felt lighter. Down below, Justice had already taken off. 2 hours later, Flight 227 soared steady above the clouds. The hum of the engines had turned from tension to rhythm, soft, even forgiving. Passengers reclined, silent but thoughtful, their minds still orbiting around what they'd witnessed. The woman in pearls, once defensive, now scrolled through news headlines. The incident was already trending. CEO stops flight to audit her own airline. A ripple of awe crossed her face. She closed her phone, exhaled, and looked out the window as if seeing the sky for the first time. Lena moved down the aisle, refilling cups, but every thank you carried new weight. People looked her in the eye, now truly saw her. She paused near Amara's seat. "Ma'am, everyone keeps saying that today changed how they'll fly." Amara smiled faintly. "Good. Change begins quietly until it can't be ignored." Her phone buzzed softly on the tray table. "Caller ID boardroom, Astra HQ," she answered. "Yes, Rachel." The voice on the line was calm but charged. "Press wants a statement and HR confirmed termination." The footage reached 6 million views already. Amara glanced around, the cabin tone composed. "Let them talk. Make sure the lesson outlives the headline." Rachel hesitated. "You know this will shake the industry." "It should," Amara replied. "If a company can't withstand accountability, it was never built to fly." The line went quiet. Then Rachel said softly, "You handled it with grace as always." Amara smiled to herself. "Grace is the only turbulence I allow." She hung up. Across the aisle, a man mid-40 business class, once skeptical, leaned over. "Miss Johnson, I run a regional carrier. You just taught us all something today." Amara raised an eyebrow. "Did I?" He nodded. "That authority means nothing if it hides behind prejudice." Her lips curved. "Then maybe you were listening after all." He chuckled nervously. "I'll be quoting you in tomorrow's meeting." Amara took a sip of water. "Just make sure you live it, not sell it." The plane continued east, slicing through sunlight that shimmered gold across the wings. Rebecca approached one last time. "Captain Miller said we'll land early, ma'am." "Perfect," Amara said, looking out the window. "Time always moves faster when peace replaces pride." Rebecca hesitated. "I want to thank you for not yelling, for showing us another way." Amara turned, eyes kind but unwavering. "Yelling doesn't change minds, actions do." The attendant nodded and stepped away, dabbing her eyes discreetly. As the cabin lights dimmed for descent, Amara opened her tablet again. On the screen, a document titled Astra Air Cultural Ethics Revision Draft 5-1. She began typing, each keystroke a promise. All staff, regardless of role, will undergo empathy and authority training. Discrimination in uniform or behavior is grounds for dismissal, no exceptions. The cursor blinked like a heartbeat. She hit save. Through the window, dusk spilled orange across the horizon. The clouds glowed soft amber, folding gently like forgiveness itself. The passengers were quiet, but in their silence lived respect. Even those who had doubted her now carried something different in their eyes, recognition. Not of power, of principle. As the plane began its descent, Amara leaned back, whispering more to the sky than to anyone else. "Justice isn't a moment, it's a standard. You said it once and never let it fall." Her reflection shimmered faintly in the glass, calm, resilient, luminous. Somewhere below, the world waited, ready or not, for the turbulence she had just taught it to face. The seatbelt sign chimed on. The plane dipped gently toward the runway, and the woman in blue smiled, eyes, steady, heart quiet. Because she knew justice had landed. By the end of the week, the world had already taken sides. What began as a single confrontation at 3,000 feet had become a conversation that reached every altitude of society. Hashtags flooded every feed number, flight audit number, Amara standard number, fly fare. Millions had watched the moment the captain's badge turned red. Some replayed it for satisfaction, others for study. Professors called it a masterclass in composure. Activists called it a live case of systemic bias exposed. News anchors debated her tone. Was she too calm, too firm, too powerful for comfort? But the public didn't argue, they admired. Clips of her final words, "I didn't raise my voice. I raised the standard," spread across TikTok and LinkedIn alike. Corporate leaders quoted her in boardrooms. Flight crews whispered her name like a legend. And somewhere in Atlanta, a teenage girl named Maya watched the clip for the 10th time and whispered, "That's who I want to be." Not everyone celebrated. A few commentators accused her of overreach. "It's just a misunderstanding," one said on morning television. She humiliated that pilot. But the co-pilot from that very flight called in live. "No," he said, steady and calm. "She taught us what humility actually looks like." The host fell silent. Astra Air's internal channels buzzed with new policy drafts. Training videos were rewritten. HR teams held emergency meetings about bias visibility. By Friday, every airline in the alliance had received the same memo. Implement ethics review protocols mirroring Astra Air's new flight audit standard. In Chicago, a group of college students started a campaign titled "Move Seats." Forward. It wasn't about airplanes. It was about reclaiming space at work, in schools, and society. They printed shirts with the line, "Respect has boarding priority." Even the pilot community couldn't ignore it. At a private forum for aviation professionals, a post appeared. "We've been trained to control altitude, not attitude. Maybe it's time for both." It gathered thousands of likes. On Sunday, Amara appeared briefly, unexpectedly, on a live stream hosted by a leadership podcast. She didn't promote a brand or defend her actions. She just said quietly, "The world doesn't need louder authority. It needs quieter accountability." The host paused, eyes shining. "You changed the game, Miss Johnson." Amara smiled. "No, I just reminded people who's really flying it." The clip hit 1 million views overnight. Even rival CEOs reposted it, captioning, "This is what leadership under fire looks like." And yet, beyond the trending tags and corporate applause, there was something deeper happening, something quieter. In airports across the country, flight attendants began greeting passengers differently, less scripted, more human. One gate agent in Houston later said, "Ever since that video, I double-check my tone. It's not fear, it's respect." In a small town in North Carolina, an older woman told her granddaughter, "You see that lady on TV? They told people like us to stay quiet." She stayed calm instead, and it worked. At the end of that same week, a letter arrived at Astra Air's headquarters. No return address. Inside was a single sentence written in neat, trembling cursive. "You didn't just ground a flight, you lifted us." Amara read it alone in her office, light from the city reflecting off the glass walls. She folded the note carefully and placed it between the pages of her leadership journal. The ripple was no longer digital, it was generational. Outside, another jet climbed into the clouds. For the first time, its path seemed a little clearer. The camera would pan upward, sky deep, endless, forgiving, then fade to the final line written across the screen in white letters. "When one woman refuses to move, the whole world moves forward." Fade to white. Music, soft strings, one last piano note held like a heartbeat. Justice didn't just land that day, it took off. Fade, and city lights blur into lines of gold beneath a cruising jet. The night sky stretches infinite calm, unbothered, like it's seen every kind of storm and learned how to outlast them. Amara's voice begins softly over the sound of engines. Measured, timeless. The world remembers noise, but it learns from silence. Images flicker moments from the journey, the captain's glare, the tremble in Lena's hands, the applause that followed truth. They say power reveals who you are, maybe, but sometimes it reveals who others thought you weren't. Cut to children watching her clip on a classroom projector. A teacher pausing, saying, "That's composure. When I was younger, I thought justice wore robes, spoke through gavels, waited in courts. But I've learned it doesn't wait anywhere. It walks in when someone decides enough is enough." The screen shows airports people checking in, laughing, hugging. Uniforms, passports, different shades of skin. Same line, same purpose. Every generation inherits a kind of turbulence. We don't choose it, but we can choose how we fly through it. A slow piano note drifts underneath her words, delicate but anchored. Cut to Amara at her office window, dusk outside. She watches another plane ascend, wings slicing through orange light. "That day, I wasn't fighting a man or a moment. I was fighting the idea that dignity has a dress code." She turns from the window, passing the framed photo of her younger self in that navy suit, creases sharp eyes uncertain. Next to it, a new photo, Lena smiling in uniform leading a crew. We are not what they assume, we are what we uphold. The camera follows her down a quiet hallway. Staff nod as she passes. No one salutes. They just acknowledge. Respect doesn't need ceremony, it breathes in recognition. Sometimes leadership looks like standing tall. Sometimes it looks like sitting still and letting truth do the talking. The elevator doors close. Inside, she presses the top-floor executive deck. The numbers climb slowly, her reflection in the mirror calm, steady, unstoppable. People ask why I didn't shout, why I didn't throw him out right there. But I've seen what shouting builds walls, and I've seen what composure builds bridges. A soft sigh, not tired but fulfilled. So no, I didn't raise my voice. I raised the standard, and I'll keep raising it until it touches the clouds. Cut to montage of everyday moments inspired by her story. A bus driver defending a passenger, a student standing up for a classmate, a manager promoting fairness over convenience. Change doesn't start with millions watching. It starts with one person deciding they won't look away. The piano builds slowly, the strings swell behind her words. The plane outside pierces through a layer of cloud, emerging into light. Every time you stay silent when you should speak, someone else gets grounded. But every time you stand your ground, someone else learns how to fly. The music holds, then fades into wind, cut to black. White text appears dedicated to those who chose grace when anger was easier. A heartbeat later, her voice returns one last time, soft, certain. They told me to move. Instead, I made them look up. Fade out. End credits roll, slow, minimal, elegant.